The impacts of COVID-19 get linked to military suicides. Is the Marine Corps going to close Parris Island? And a heroic tale of a desperate stand from the Vietnam War. There's a full magazine of stories in the briefing this week. Let's take the safety off. Welcome back to The Briefing. I'm Andrea Scott. If you're looking for more military news, check us out on militarytimes.com and our social pages on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. In our top story this week, a deadly new impact of the coronavirus pandemic has emerged. The virus has now been linked to another lethal epidemic, that of military suicides. Military Times Capitol Hill Bureau Chief Leo Shane takes us into how the virus has led to a significant jump in suicide rates.
Some troubling news out of the military ranks this week. Documents obtained by the Associated Press have shown an increase in suicides of as much as 20% since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Pentagon leadership haven't released the official numbers confirming the problem yet, but Army leaders told the news service they've seen a significant increase in cases since the middle of March, right when much of the country went into lockdown because of COVID. Now, these officials can't directly blame the increase on things like increased isolation or other stressors from the virus, but the timing amplifies fears among mental health experts that many troops and service members already facing mental health challenges could see the problems increased by the global pandemic. That's leading many advocates and military leaders to act right away to see what resources and support they can provide to struggling service members. New commander of the 82nd Airborne Division, who just took command in May, recently told the Associated Press he's reminding his troops that suicide prevention has to be a top priority at all times.
This isn't easy. This is incredibly hard. Nobody wants to talk about this in everyday life, but we have to make it the norm.
Active duty forces aren't the only group facing worries about increased suicides in their ranks. The National Guard has reportedly seen a 10% rise since the start of the pandemic. And officials from Wounded Warrior Project released a new membership survey last week, which showed 61% of their members felt disconnected from family and friends, and more than half said their mental health has suffered because of concerns related to the virus. About a third of that group of disabled veterans had already reported suicidal thoughts even before the start of the pandemic. So advocates are asking everyone in the veteran and military community to be aware of the potential for increased problems and anxiety and stress, and to reach out for help at the first sign of any trouble.
Thanks, Leo. Now, onto this week's headlines. First up, a World War II victory flyover. The Arsenal of Democracy vintage plane flyover of Washington, D.C. got the 2020 treatment this week. Weather forced organizers to cancel the annual event, but not before Military Times was able to get some cockpit footage during a training run in one of only two still flying B-29s. About 70 historic aircraft were originally scheduled for the flyover, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. Next up, is the Marine Corps closing Parris Island? While it's still early in the planning process, a Marine spokesman said neither the Parris Island nor San Diego depots can optimally handle integrated training. So the future for both recruit depots is unclear. Next up, Army football. The Army West Point football team is back with a message for the country and the Navy. Let's take a look.
It ain't who we play, it's how we play!
So we must be ready.
And we are not going to be denied victory.
Sack back at the 40-yard line. We must answer the call again. To lead, to fight, to win. It's over a defender at the 20. It leaps over the goal line. Touchdown, Army! Pressure coming, sacked back at the 49-yard line. Here's over the middle, off back Harrison at the 15-yard line for the touchdown! In times of uncertainty, the United States Army has always answered the call. A 10-yard loss. Touchdown, Jamari Moore from 45 yards out.
Duty, honor, country.
Are you ready?
Has a block, goes in for the touchdown.
Infantry unit going on patrol.
And Are you ready?
And finally, some Vietnam heroism. A desperate stand against the North Vietnamese Army in 1969 is the setting for a tale of heroism that some advocates say is worthy of a Medal of Honor. Reporter Todd South takes us to Firebase Kate.
So the story of the actions of Captain Albrecht that did lead to the medal that he received are basically Hollywood worthy. There was a small documentary made and a book written about it.
Escape from Firebase Kate.
We're in Vietnam in 1969. What is called Vietnamization is starting, where they're really trying to turn the war over to the South Vietnamese to fight the North Vietnamese rather than having the Americans at the front lines. But still the Americans are providing crucial support. So there's a firebase called Firebase Kate. It's a very small outpost on a hilltop, basically artillery, just to kind of provide fire support for South Vietnamese units in the area when they're conducting operations. In late October 1969, then Captain Green Beret William Albrecht steps off a helicopter to meet about 150 Montguard troops and around 24 American soldiers, primarily artillerymen. They really don't have any infantry training. In fact, they will admit in some later interviews that they were kind of hanging out, really partying, playing volleyball on the hilltop because nothing was going on. And all that was about to change very quickly. So almost immediately, Captain Albrecht gets on that hilltop and he realizes that things are just not up to snuff. He realizes this place is vulnerable and he would attack it if he were the enemy. So they really start strengthening those defenses and pretty much in the nick of time.
First contact with the enemy that night was the beginning of a siege on the firebase that would escalate rapidly over the next 3 days.
So they're doing all this work to do the defenses, the attack starts coming, they start to realize slowly over time how big this attack is and they're going to get overrun. So they're calling for non-stop air support.
Spooky 4-1, this to Hawk. Roger, buddy. Old lady up here is ready to clear her throat and do a little talking for you. Okay, we'll go fine.
So where this young captain starts to shine is when another officer is killed and he has to take over all of the command. He's leading patrols himself as a captain, sometimes taking point out into the jungle to try to find the enemy, and then also calling in very close air support.
Roger on that. Okay, walk it right in the wood line there, right in the wood line if you can. Hawk, this is 4-1. We're just going to start working all the way around you, babe. Okay, buddy, that sounds real good. Go ahead.
They run out of water, they run out of ammo, they're reaching really their wits' end. So after about 5 days of receiving, random indirect fire and direct fire from pretty much all sides by these regiments, they decide they've got to go. They go through pitch blackness, they have complete light discipline, they can make no noise, no sound. At one point, they get some fire, they think they're taking friendly fire from their own air support.
Roger, signal calling 4-1, somebody's firing on us up there.
They get to a clearing where there's really no communication. They took a wrong turn on a pathway to get to link up with their own friendly forces, and Captain Albrecht himself has to walk out in this empty pasture in open territory in moonlight, which is no, you never ever do that. It's like infantry 101. But he has to do it just to show the friendly forces on the other side that they're friendly and they're not going to get shot up by their own guys as they finally link up with the support that they've been waiting for 5 days. And he does, of course, and he gets them out, and the men survive. And there's nearly 150 men and another 24 Americans that lived because of that.
Thanks, Todd. For more on the story of Captain Albrecht and Firebase Kate, head to militarytimes.com. And now for a new addition to the show this week, complicated ideas presented in simple terms. Check out the new animated series from Defense News called Defense Defined.
So as you may know, the Department of Defense is moving to the cloud. That's a lot of data moving to a place a lot of people don't actually understand. So let's take a look at where your data lives. Let's say you make a document. That document probably lives in your computer's hard drive and you have to be physically at your machine to pull it up or edit it. But you want to be able to access that document from any device, anywhere. That means you'll have to save it to the cloud, which is basically someone else's server that you can access through the internet. That selfie you shared on social media? Yeah, that's the cloud. For DoD, the cloud will allow service members to access anything from plans to medical information anywhere, from the Pentagon to the battlefield. An additional benefit of the cloud is that a user can take advantage of software that isn't on the computer. So the cloud doesn't just store information, it solves problems.
And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and our social pages on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check us out on Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps Times for the latest news.